Hello, children. Very good afternoon. In the last class, we have seen the poem called The Poem of Adventure, and today we are going to see the book back exercise of The Poem of Adventure. Before we do the exercise, I would like to give a short summary of the poem. In this poem, the poet George Corcos relates to the adventures of the knights. Adventures are hidden deep inside the mountains in all types of forms and shapes. The adventures have an excellent ending. People who take up adventures in their life see the world in an extraordinary special way. They feel that they have little wings on their back, and whenever they take a new step, they bounce in joy. In the olden days, knights were daring and chivalrous. They rode on their horses with a sword or spear and fought their opponents for just cause. They regarded themselves as worthy of winning the hands of their fair ladies as a valuable prize for their valor. They impressed the crowd by fighting with their opponents. Even today, people talk with much applause about the brave adventurous deeds of the knights. Look at the question, children. This is an extract question, which means a few lines will be given from the poem and a question will be asked. You need to understand the lines and question and answer accordingly. Deep inside the mountain, the adventures hide. Where do adventures hide? Adventures hide deep inside the mountain. Let's look at some grammar parts of the sentence. Look at the question, children. Where do adventures hide? So here the subject is adventures. It is in plural. And the verbs are do and hide. Do is the auxiliary verb, whereas hide is the main verb. The question is asked in present tense. So we need to write the answer in present tense. And please analyze the subject. Here the subject is plural, so we need to put plural verb. Adventures hide. Suppose if they have asked in singular adventure, then you need to add s with the main verb. Hides. Adventure hides. Since it is asked in plural, we need not to put s with the verb. Adventures hide deep inside the mountain. They are of all forms and shapes. They all have an excellent ending. What does have an excellent ending? Adventures have an excellent ending. When to fight for a righteous cause, one did gain considerable applause, which means long ago, during the knightly system, it was in the man's history when they should fight for a good cause, they also gained a good extent of applause for their deeds. Similarly, if one fights for a righteous cause, one will get applause. When we look at the grammar part, the answer is kind of a conditional clause. Yes, it is the first type of conditional clause. If one fights for a righteous cause, one will get applause. In conditional clause type 1, if we use simple present tense, then automatically the next part will be in simple future. And in fighting for their country, faith and king, noble impressions on people's mind would ring. So, when the knights fight for their country, good impressions are felt in every person's mind. These impressions are held in high esteem through ages. These knights are even seen remembered now in shining armor. What does noble impression mean? Noble impression is nothing but a good opinion. The same lines are repeated here. And in fighting for their country, faith and king, noble impressions on people's mind would ring. Who can leave a noble impression? Knights who are fighting for their country, faith, and the king can leave a noble impression on people's mind. If you look at the subject in the answer, knights, knights refers to plural noun. So automatically we need to put plural present verb. So knights who are fighting. Here who is the relative pronoun? There are many legends based on their heroic exploits, a legacy of tales that have been told with much adroit. From these lines, we understand that there are many stories based on their heroic deeds. They are an inheritance of tales which have been told by people with much skill. The people tell these stories of the knights by highlighting the aspects of human wisdom related to virtue and vice. The lessons learnt are those of goodness and sacrifice. So, what does heroic exploits mean? Heroic exploits means daring adventures. And what are legends? Legends are traditional stories. Now, we are coming to the brief question answers. What is an adventure? An adventure is an unusual, exciting, and daring deed. Look at the question, children. What is an adventure? An adventure is a singular noun. So they have used a singular present verb called is. An adventure is an unusual, exciting, and daring deed. Describe the appearance of a knight. A knight is bold and daring. He rides on a horse with a sword or spear in harness, seeking romance. In this context, the word romance refers to something adventurous or something new. Now, let us understand the question first. Describe the appearance of a knight. A knight refers to singular. So, they have used a singular verb called is. A knight is bold and daring. And he rides. So if it is third person singular, we need to add s with the main verb. So he rides on a horse with a sword in armors, seeking romance. What are the characteristics of an adventure? Adventures hide deep inside the mountains. They have an excellent ending. They are all forms and shapes. Now, let us analyze the grammar part of the question. What are the characteristics of an adventure? So, characteristics are asked in plural. So, they have used the plural verb called are. And look at the other word, an adventure. It is in singular. So, it is not always that we should follow the same pattern as with the question. We can also use some other thing. For example, here the adventure refers as a singular one, but we can also use a plural one. For example, look at the answer, children. Adventures hide. So the word adventures is nothing but a plural noun. So we need not to add s with the main verb. Adventures hide deep inside the mountains. They, plural. So we need to use have. If it is in singular, we can use it has. Okay. Now we come to the long answers. Why does the poet ask us to imagine that we have tiny wings on our back? The poet asks us to imagine that we have tiny wings on our back so that we can bounce a bit with joy when we take a new step towards our adventurous life. He also wants us to imagine that we are clear in mind and feel the wind passing through us instead of going against us. We just have to close our eyes and ask them to embrace us. Thus, they would be attracted to be our patterns of habit. Now, let us discuss the question first. Why does the poet ask? So the poet is the subject here. He is a singular. So they have used singular verbs called does plus ask. So if does plus ask joins, then it becomes asks. We should add yes with the main verb ask. The poet asks us to imagine that we have tiny wings on our back so that we can bounce a bit with joy when we take a new step towards our adventurous life. And then he also wants, see here the pronoun is singular, the pronoun is singular, so they have added yes with the main verb wants. Why should we fight for a righteous cause? Long ago, during the age of chivalry, knights used to fight for a righteous cause. They gained considerable applause for their chivalrous acts. Likewise, we should also fight for a noble cause so that we could get good applause from the people of our country. If we fight for our country, people will have a good impression of us in their minds. They will hold us in high esteem. So children, when we are talking about the past, the history, we need to write the answers in past tense, and when we are talking about the present, we need to write in present tense. Take the first part of the answer. Long ago, during the age of chivalry. So if we see the phrase long ago, automatically we have to think about the past events. So we need to put the past verbs. For example, knights used to. Used to is the past verb. In the next sentence, they gained. They refers to knights. They gained, past tense. And if we come to the second part of the answer, we should also fight for a noble cause. So we refers to a noun, and fight, it's the verb here, which is present verb here. Look at the second point. If we fight for our country, people will have a good impression of us in their minds. So here they have used the conditional class 1. Now let us pick out the rhyming words from the poem. Old, bold, lance, romance, cause, applause, chivalry, history, maiden, laden, blows, force, death, breath, your, for, struggle, juggle, king, ring, esteem, seem, exploits, adroit, wise, sacrifice, cause, cause, or some of the rhyming words in this poem. Now let us move on to the alliterated words. Alliterated words are nothing but in every word the first letter should be the same. See the examples, children. Those, that, there. They, themselves. Fighting for faith. Lessons learnt. Time, take. Defying death. Held high. Bounce, bit. Virtue, wise. A PDF will be sent after this video. So please write down all the notes in your classwork and take a picture of it and send it to me. Thank you. Have a nice day.